We're now on Daf Chav Gimel and Beis. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, he holds an Eved Knai is not mishtach b'shtar unless it's through the Acherim who receive the shtar on his behalf. Eved Knani Ma'u, here's the suffix of Rabbah, can Yaseh Shliach L'Kabel Gito Miyad Rabbah. Can he appoint someone as his shliach to represent him and accept the get on his behalf? So what's the din if the Eved appoints a shliach to be makabel on his behalf a get? And as we'll soon see, the suffix here is a pella because we said that he's mishtach al yidei acherim, and it doesn't mean that the acherim have to be a shliach. So you're vacillating as to whether he could appoint a shliach. Who needs a shliach? And just to jump a little bit ahead of ourselves, Tosfos says that we're talking about a scenario in which the Adon wants to give the get into the hands of the shliach of the Eved. And that's called Nesinas Hashtar B'Torah Shlichus. And he says to the shliach, he says, Zachei b'shtar zeh, k'mo she'amar lecha ha'eved. So he's not giving it over to Acherim as a Maisa Nesina. He's giving it to the Acherim as a validly appointed proxy, a shliach of the Eved. And now the question is, can the Eved appoint a shliach? On the one hand, came in the Gomer Lola mi Isha ke Isha. Just like Isha can appoint a shliach to be makabel a get, so too the Eved could appoint a shliach to be makabel his get. O Dilma, shall we say Isha to eat Motzi makabel his gita? Shlichus is predicated on the fact that you give over your ability to the shliach, and she had the ability to receive the get. Is therefore shliach nami motzi mashi? She can create a shliach on her behalf. But in the case of Eved the iu lo makabel gite, he himself cannot be makabel his get according to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, because Reb Shimon ben Elazar rejects the shita of what, the principle of what gito the other ban kechad is shliach nami lo motzi mash. He cannot appoint a shliach. And the Gemara concludes, the final conclusion of Rabbah was that the Gzeira Shava overpowers this svara, and therefore, even though the Eved cannot receive his own get, nevertheless he can appoint a shliach to receive his own get. So the Gemara asks, well, what about in Karbanos? The Kohanim, according to Rav Kahana, are shluchim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they cannot be shluchim of Yisrael. And why is that so? Says Rav Huna, analyzing the logic that led him to that conclusion, how could it be possible, argues Rav Huna, that the Kohanim could be shluchei didan, didan means of us, when they themselves, the Mishalech, could not possibly do the avodah of the korban, not Kabbalas Adam, not Halachas Adam, not Tzrikas Adam, they're all psulim bizarre. So the only way we can understand how the Kohanim are shluchim is if we assume that they are appointed as shluchim, as representatives of the Eibishter Kaviyachol. Einam el shluchei HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahakavus hakarbanos. Now, according to Rabbah, an Eved, in the final conclusion, can appoint a shliach to makabel his get. And now the Gemara raises the following question: V'lo, for after the iulo motzi makabel gita shliach motzi mashve. You see the breakthrough and the model of an Eved who, even though he himself cannot receive his get, because Reb Shimon ben Elazar rejects gita v'yodamo and kachas, and yet the conclusion of Rabbah was that he can appoint a shliach. So we see that even a person who cannot do the action himself could still, nevertheless, appoint a shliach. Hagmar says, "V'lohi, your analogy is not on target." Because in the case of Karbanos, Yisrael lo shaychi b'Torah's Karbanos klal. And that means that the Kohanim cannot be makriv as shluchim of us because we don't have any kashrus for hakrava. But in the case of an Eved, shayach begitin, he does have the ability to be makabel a get shechrur, albeit not for himself, but at least for someone else. The Sanya we learned in the Brayso Nirim ad Dvarim she'Eved makabel gito shel chavero miad rabo shel chavero, that the Eved could be appointed as a shliach on behalf of a different Eved to be makabel the get on behalf of that other Eved from the Yad Rabbah. So we see that an Eved does have a Yad to be makabel shtar shichur in the case of avur chavero, avolo miyad rabo shalom, but he cannot receive the get shichur from his own rav, because the yad of the eved is the yad of the rav, and therefore the get never left the rishus of the adon. And if the shtar shichur never left the rishus of the adon, it cannot possibly effectuate a shichur. However, the eved is shaykh to be a shliach to be a kabel a get shichur on behalf of his friend, and therefore he could also appoint a shliach to be makabel again on behalf of his friend, on behalf of himself. So, the Mishnah says that according to Chachamim, an eved can be mishtacher with giving his own kesef, according to Chachamim. It means that others gave him money, and now the eved acquired that money, and he could use that money in order to be kones atzmo and be mishtacher. Name of Bahal Kamifli, shall we say the Machlok Shrim Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim about whether the eved could possibly own his own money? Is the Rabbi Meir Sover Ein Kinya Eved below Rabo? In other words, even if others give money over to the eved with the intention that that moment should be his, meaning the eved's, nevertheless, automatically it transfers over to the Rav. And the Ein Kinya Isha below Baila. And we similarly have halacha that even if a woman receives gifts from someone else, then automatically it reverts to her husband, because in the context of the ksuba is kol mashikon to isha kon baila. So what do the Rabbanan hold? Yesh kinyan le'eved below Rab. Yesh kinyan le'isha below baila. So Chacham say it's very possible for an eved to own mammon, and he can be shachar himself. But Meir holds he can never examine. So Gemara says the following: Amar Rabba Bar, Amar Rav Sheshes Dekuli Alma. Everybody agrees. Aim kinyan le'eved below Rab, aim kinyan le'isha below baila. That even if others give money over to the eved or to the isha, she or he cannot be mekan b'hoch ma'eskinon the aknile acher mon v'yomerle. So a person was makna to the eved 100 zuz of mana, and then he declares the following: Hareni makna l'chas hamon al menashe ein l'rabcha b'shus bo. I want to make a condition that this money that I'm giving you will be yours, meaning the evidence, and your adon will not be zochid. As soon as he says to the eved, I want you to be kona, immediately, automatically, the adon is kona, which probably means, again, this is a lumdish question, that it never really enters in, even for a split second, into the possession of the eved. So once the eved gets this moment, it's automatically zocha bo rabbo. V'chi omer le'al manas, even though the person who gave the money over to the eved said, I declare I don't want I don't have anything to do with this money. Lo klum kamale. The amira is not worth a dime. You cannot give the eved mammon without the mammon being automatically transferred and owned by the rab. And therefore, there's no possibility that he could mishacher himself with his own mammon. Rabban and Savri came in the Omer Le'al Manas, Ahani Le'Tnoi. The Tnai of the Acherim who gave money into the hands of the Eved Al Manas, that the Rav should not have any ownership over the Eved, that is a valid Tnai. Now, Rabbi Lazar Omar, he explains the Machlok Shrim Rabbi Meir the Chachamim in a different way. Now, honestly, I have a lot of trouble with this next piece of Gemara because I don't see exactly how Rabbi Lazar's explanation is any different than the one we had here in the name of Rabbi, in the name of Rav Sheshes. But let's see if we can answer that. There's a long footnote on this. Says Rabbi Lazar, Kol ki hai gavna, kuli amalo pligi, dekani eved v'kani Rabbi. Everybody, even the Chachamim, agree to the position of Rabbi Meir that if somebody gives moment over to the Eved, Al Menashe Ein LaRab Reshuspa, automatically the money is accrued to the possession of the Adon. But Chacham where do the Chacham disagree with Rabbi Meir and allow for the possibility of the Eved being Kohen Mamon? Could go the Akni Le Acher Mana. So somebody who's makna to the Eved of Mana, The Amar Le, the Makna says to the Eved, Almanas sheteitze bo lecherus. You see where this is slightly different than what we had in Rav Sheshes. It wasn't Almanas she. What was the language before? Excuse me 1 second. Almanas she'ein l'Ravcha reshus bo, but rather we're going to substitute Almanas sheteitze bo lecherus. That you can use this money to be podis of Rameh Savik Yomag Lekni, Koni Eved v'Koni Rabba. As soon as he says you should acquire ownership, it automatically reverts to the ownership of the Adon. V'chi Amar Le Almanas Lo Klum Kamal. Even though he stipulated it explicitly a condition, the condition is not valid. For Rabban and Savri, but the Chacham disagree, and they hold that the Rav is not going to be zoch in this money. Why? Because it was given for the express purpose of shichur. Almanasha teitzibo lecheres. L'didei nami holok maknile. In truth, the Evan himself is not being makna the kesef. It's going directly from the giver over to the Adon. Dolo Omar Le, he didn't say to him, I want you to be kona for yourself to the exclusion of the Adon. Ela Menashe takes about cheres. So that's what I think he means here in the footnote. I'll read it to you. He says, Tanai Zeh Odiv, this Tanai of Rabbi Loza that we're talking about, Almanas, Shetetzi Bo Lecheres, is superior to Nosei Matot Levet Almanas She'ein L'Rabba Rishus Po. Shesham, Me'achim and Nosei Matot Levet Eved, the Torah says that the Adon is Zocher. But here in this case, HaTorah Zochsalo, Rakes Masha Eved Kana, only that which enters into the possession of the Eved, that's Kona to the Adon. But here, the Adon the Eved never gets an actual kinyan, goes directly for the shichur of the Eved. For Rami Rameir, the Rameir for Rami Rabban, and this Mirza Hashem will pick up tomorrow the Sanya here on Daf Chav Daled Amud Aleph. The Gemara is going to bring a brisa that seems to have what's called Deos Hafuchos. And that in Mirza Hashem, V'li Neder, will be our subject for tomorrow, Mirza Hashem, same time, same station, as we say. All right? Let me wish you a great day, and thank you so much. Cool.